I'm sorry, I had some connection issue. Were you talking to me? Okay. It's going pretty good. I didn't get to buy any Tesla stock today. The volatility, ridiculous. Well, with the macro data, I guess soon to come out, it's going to rock a lot of the market a little bit. But Tesla is, and as you know, it's no shocker that it can move 5% up or down in any given day. So you just ride the waves.
Good, Yemen. How are you today? I'm not a real avid follower of the stock. I'm kind of holding, and I bought it a couple of years ago when I ordered my Cybertruck, and it was kind of like that will be my nest egg for buying it. And now I'm kind of thinking I just put in the order for the Cybertruck a couple of days ago, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to find ways to get 140,000 Canadian other than selling that stock because I want to leave it in there.
I think the company is disconnected from the stock. It's just hard for me to follow whenever there's a new development, how the market's treating Tesla. So I'm honestly a little lost the past week. I just wanted to say that because Tesla's consumer discretionary, we need the unemployment rate not to be too high, but we need there to be unemployment so that rates are cut. So there's this perfect balancing act just for Tesla, unlike an Amazon where you're buying an item for like $20.
No, unfortunately, I'm walking the dog.
I can go on a little rant. Well, let's see. Hustletown and Brian, how long have you been investing in Tesla for?
My first investments were just after the Cybertruck release. I kind of really started focusing on that, and then that led to buying a Model Y, and I've been kind of accumulating, but I haven't bought anything in about a year. So I'm just about, I'm not underwater right now, but I'm just at par, I think. But I don't follow it day to day. It's a long-term investment for me. I think I got about $60,000 total right now at the current valuation.
And you're a Canadian. I hear the about. So you have the Cybertruck in Canada too, right?
Yeah, we just got
Cybertruck in Canada too, right?
the orders to configure orders about a week ago. It was my birthday. I was talking to my wife. She was like, I don't know. It's like 140 of this luxury tax. It's for, I guess, sports cars and stuff. So, anyways, they dropped that, and I ordered it right away. So now today, I just got a notification I have to put in my delivery location. So I'm not sure if it's coming faster, but it said between October and November for delivery now.
And with your Model Y, do you have FSD?
I do. I have the 99 Canadian per month FSD. My wife loves it. She drives with it all the time now, and I encourage her to. I'm sure that's going to save a life sometime because it just sees things. We're getting older, and my reaction time isn't what it used to be. I'm 63 now. Um, I just love it. It's the older version because it's a 21 Model Y. It's got hardware 3 in it. So I'm just waiting for the upgrade to when the no nag comes in. That'll be awesome.
So you got 12.3.6, and it's good your wife passed the wife test. That's probably the most important uh, qualification for FSD. I heard most Tesla owners are guys, which is I don't know why.
Yeah,
All right,
she
I'm
has
back.
a lot of pushback from her friends about it, and they tell her it's dangerous and it's going to catch on fire, and she just laughs at them now. She's totally on board.
Uzi, you did a great job. You should host your own spaces.
I would, but I'm still a little tiny account, and I like this space. So maybe like nighttime or something.
Yeah, we got to do that AI space. We didn't do it this week. Next Monday. All right. You guys were talking about FSD, right? And FUD.
Yeah, Brian was giving us a little background, and then told us his wife loves FSD. He's got a Model Y. I think he said he got the Cybertruck too. Talked a little bit about the stock.
Brian, does she use it every trip and for most of her trips, or is it just on the highways?
She has a very short commute. We live rurally. We're way out in the country. She has a short commute to her job in the village close by. The country winding roads, it just handles it awesome. She claims she uses it all the time. Now, I'm not in the car to verify that. She might be just trying to pacify me because I'm trying to encourage her to use it. But yeah, she's seems to love it, and she's become a real prophet for it with her group of friends. Because out here in the rural Canada, there's a lot of negativity about it still.
You said you try to encourage her to use it. How do you go about doing that?
Well, I use it when I'm driving and she's in the car, and I try to explain to her like how it's maneuvering well around slow moving vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, and things like that. And she's starting to really trust it, and she'll often tell people that she trusts it more than she trusts me. So I think that's how it really came about. And then I just keep inquiring, like, how did it do today? Did you have any interventions? And she'll tell me, very odd, very rarely will there be an intervention in her route. And And yeah, she's just getting very comfortable with it. She trusts it quite a bit, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a huge progress with the wife test, especially if the husband's or if one spouse encourages and uses it as an example, then there's progress. But there's still a bit of a bottleneck in terms of people who are not who have decided not to buy it or subscribe to it, trying it again. I think there's a big bottleneck there. Neural Net, how are you?
I am wonderful, thank you. And I'm looking forward to subscribing again. I have a Cybertruck and a 2021 Hardware 3 Model Y. So I'm in FSD purgatory right now. I'm just being punished, and I can't wait to get out of it.
Yeah, well, Omar says it's going to come in September, so or at least by the end of September. So we'll see. I posted a poll on YouTube yesterday or the other day. Will FSD 12.5 with no nags materially boost take rates? And you can see the results. This is about 60 people who responded to it. Majority said yes, but it's a bare majority. What do you guys think about this? Do you think we'll see a material increase in the take rates with 12.5? Neural Net?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm one of those people. Yes, as soon as I can get it on my 2021 Hardware 3, I'll subscribe at least for a couple of months just to test it out. So I'm, one of those.
But you said you used to use it, right? You had it before?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, was subscribed, and then I got my Cybertruck, and I just didn't drive the Y. It just sat there, so I was like, I'm not gonna. And again, I got the Model Y waiting for my Cybertruck, and I was supposed to get rid of it when I got my Cybertruck, but unfortunately, the value dropped, and at the same time, it's kind of nice to just go out in the Model Y and not be seen. So I've kept it, and I guess that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm just gonna keep it. But yeah, that's my scenario.
Thank you. Machine's mom says the audio on YouTube is great. Hustletown.
Talk about passing the wife test. We're on 12.5.1.3. My wife would not use it on 12.3.6, but now she's Japanese. And so she's on a, whatever they call that call line or whatever. She's with her family back home showcasing it while she's driving, and they're flabbergasted. They have no idea that cars can do these things. So yeah, the take rate, I have a feeling it's gonna be huge.
Daniel.
Yeah, so on regards to take rate, I think it's going to increase a lot when Tesla gets their NVIDIA GPUs. If you remember the Q2 earnings, there was a picture of the amount of compute of H100s they had. And in March, that is when we went from 12.3.6 to 12.4 and then 12.5. And that had a massive improvement in performance with drives without any engagements. And also it was hands-free. And later by December, the end of the year, we're going to have 2 more of those shipments of the GPUs. And at the moment, we've got about 45,000 GPUs. And by the end of the year, it's going to be 90,000. So I think the take rate will shoot up a lot because the performance is going to be so much better by the end of the year. So I think by the end of the year,
well, can you maybe be more specific with your forecast? So by the end of the year, what do you mean by the performance will be so much better?
Well, going off TeslaFSDtracker.com, which is kind of the most reliable thing we have, we saw around a 2 to 3x improvement from 12.3.6 to 12.5. So that was after the GPUs. And then we've got 2 more big shipments, and the GPU number will double by the end of the year. So, a rough guess, maybe around a 10x, to be honest. I don't know how it works really. We've got a double in the amount of GPUs, but also from 12.3.6, we had around 30,000 GPUs. So that's a 3x in GPU performance, which is quite a big deal. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a certain sort of number to say.
I will. So let me maybe explain a little bit. Just because you buy GPUs doesn't mean it's going to lead to an increase in performance. So first of all, we have to correct something. you said that the miles between disengagements improved by 2 to 3x from 12.3.6 to 12.5. And although that was the case when 12.5 first rolled out, as more users started submitting their data, if you go on TeslaFSDTracker.com now, you'll see that it's back down to 200s. So there's a bit of an improvement, but it is not 2x to 3x. And that's usually the case. Usually what happens is when a new release comes out, the first few data points that are entered, they're just not, there's not enough diverse data. And I was monitoring this for my Tesla patrons as well. And I noticed in the first few data points, like about 50, 60 entries, majority of them were coming from two states, Texas and New Jersey. And that was it. So you want to have enough data points, thousands of miles, hundreds of data points from various states, various geographies to at least get some sense of what the direction is. And then before it gets to 10,000 miles submitted, it's kind of hard to tell, honestly. I think it's still hard to tell what it is because it's changing so much still. So that's one point, corrected that, right? And then the second, even after you install the GPUs, there are other factors that lead to the increase in performance. So for example, the model that you're training can change, can improve. Tesla makes changes to the model on a continuous basis, basically. Sometimes they have big major upgrades, and that's when you see the V11 to V12 to maybe 13 next year. But then some minor changes, V12.3, V12.4, V12.5. So all of those are changes. And then the dot releases between those, so V12.3.6 is more like a bug fixes, is my understanding. But even that is not enough. So another factor, for example, is you need to be able to collect diverse data points for edge cases, and they also have to be, you have to have ample data points for each edge case to train the model as well. And there's a lot of scrubbing of the data that's done. And then between each release, they have to, validate it with their internal test crew and then send it out to an ever increasing number of people gradually, step by step in stages to make sure they catch any sort of bugs. And sometimes they go back to the drawing board to make the fixes before they start rolling out again. So it's an extremely comprehensive, detailed, arduous, costly on so many fronts process to get one release out. Just because you added GPUs doesn't mean much. And at any point, the bottleneck to progress can be different. Sometimes it's the GPUs that you have. Sometimes it is the miles they're collecting. Sometimes it's the engineer's time that need to work on the bug fixes. And sometimes other factors. This is just like a vehicle production ramp. So when you're ramping the production, sometimes the castings go wrong and the rest of the line has to wait. Sometimes you don't have the floor mats and you have to hold production. Sometimes, I don't know, the guy called out sick or something. You don't have assembly workers. Then you have to wait until you can hire assembly workers, even though you have the castings going. So that is, so just wait, be patient. It's going to take, in my opinion, much longer than people think. But after it happens, I think Tesla is moving along in the right direction and it'll be very valuable. Neural net and then Uzi.
So just like to say, Iman, if I was to try and give a simple analogy to summarize what you just said, and I hope this does it, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but ultimately GPUs are like bulldozers in a gold mine. And what you actually need is the gold mine. The bulldozers will come, right? We can sell shovels, Cisco can sell routers, NVIDIA can sell GPUs, but what you actually need is the gold mine, the solution that will utilize this hardware to generate a bunch of profits. So it is deep risk. Tesla, I believe, is the best company taking that risk. When you think about other AI companies and what they're doing, it doesn't matter how many GPUs they have. What matters is what are they running on top of it? and how is it going to pay for everything they've done?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you need all of the above, right? Sometimes you need bulldozers, sometimes you need shovels, sometimes you need just the people, and you need all of the above at different times. And I think one good example of what you're saying is what XAI was able to do with Grok 2. I mean, Grok 2 is really impressive in terms of image creation. And like Omar was explaining yesterday, Elon and team achieved that with a fraction of the time that OpenAI has been added, a fraction of the resources, a small team that's only been around together for a few months, and the model is performing really well. And I'm going to start using it for my thumbnails, for example. Uzi.
Well, I'm back on the question about FSD 12.5 with no nags. Is that all right?
Yes.
I mean, I think part of our conversation yesterday focused on how 80% of the fleet was hardware 3. Once the distribution goes out wider, I certainly think it would affect that materially. I think the real challenge is you have a constant iteration speed, and we see like the pace of iteration increase when you hit 12.5 or 12.3. You go up to 12.3.6 or 12. We're up to 3 now for 0.5, and so that increases the challenge of validation. So if they're able to figure out that where hardware 3 cars are able to get FSD at a faster pace without no nag, then I don't see why not. It wouldn't help. I do think the majority of car owners are lay car owners, and this community is more expert. So things like nag, I don't know if they're entirely aware of that. And I think they'll sort of notice it when they have FSD themselves. So someone might have to prompt them, or Tesla might have to put a pop up so they're aware. Just look at the road, and then no problem.
Daniel, does that make sense? Daniel?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't really listening to the end of it, but I do understand what you were talking about. I saw the FSD tracker. Yeah, it's gone down. It's like not a 2 to 3x, more like a 1 point something to 2x improvement now, or something like that.
Yeah.
But
and that's still pretty amazing when you think about it. Like where it is right now is 200 plus miles between critical disengagements. That means, and also the miles between disengagements, any intervention is I think kind of getting to a point where the average, it's longer than the average commute. So we're going to see many examples of people reporting disengagement, intervention-free rides. That's very good, very positive. However, that still doesn't mean we're anywhere close to robotaxi level, reliability. That needs to get to tens of thousands. So we do need at least 2 orders of magnitude improvements, maybe 3 orders of magnitude improvements before we can be ready for robotaxi. But Tesla is attacking that on many fronts. So it's not just the increased training time, which you're referring to as GPU increase. It's also going to be, the hardware 4, for example, is going to be more capable than hardware 3, and the hardware 5 is going to be more capable than hardware 4, which means you can run bigger models, bigger AI models on the car. And the bigger the model, just like in Texas, it's bigger and better, So keep that in mind. It's not just about collecting miles. Tesla has many tools in the toolbox to improve that at a rapid pace. And I think they will. I think it's a few years out. I don't think it's going to reflect in the stock price for now. But when it happens, Tesla is going to be the leading player in town because of their approaches today. Neural net?
So I'd just like to add, when we talk about miles per intervention, if we're looking at a global metric, I don't think it really speaks to anything related to robotaxi, because ultimately I think robotaxis will be deployed in a very localized, controlled environment, and all that. Maybe that's just a border, right? I'm not saying HD maps and LiDAR and all the other crazy stuff, just a border, right? So what really matters is the number of interventions per mile in that geographical area. So I think a overall global model metric is impressive, but I think when it really comes to mattering for robotaxis, there will be a localized intervention metric that matters.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that reminds me, by the way, Daniel, Machine's mom is telling you to speak up, with the hard of hearing, I think. Anyway, it reminds me yesterday, as I was reviewing yesterday's space, Omar mentioned in a sentence that we kind of skipped over that we should discuss a little bit more. He sees FSD unsupervised rolling out in stages, which is what NeuroNet that kind of implied just now. So for example, in a specific scenario where FSD is already doing really well, let's say on the highway, you're not changing lanes and there's a bit of traffic, so you have a lead car. In those situations, the reliability level might be over 1,000 miles per disengagement already, right? So you only need maybe 1 to 2 orders of magnitude improvements. So in those situations, if when the car notices they are on the highway and the traffic is flowing 30, 40 miles an hour, maybe Tesla will introduce FSD unsupervised at that point. And then you're going to be able to check out, maybe watch a movie or play some games. And, since we're talking about playing games on your car, the link is at the top of your screens. I just had my first sponsors only space. Joe Life provided me with a link and a picture of their new product, wireless controllers. This link is at the top of your screens. It takes you directly to that product. And if you use the code TSLA Live, and if you use the link at the top, you get 5% off, and we get 5%. The first sponsors only space was very, very productive. And I think we're moving in the right direction. I think the basics of this podcast is in place now. Now it's just a matter of executing consistently and growing distribution a little bit, maybe to Apple Podcast and Spotify. Anyway, you can help out by supporting our sponsors, Joe Life, at the top of our screens, and then we have our second sponsor, Pay More. We're working on a specific messaging for that one, and then that's going to start soon as well. All right, NeuroNet, what do you think of that idea Omar shared yesterday, where you're going to be able to push a button and say, hey, drive me while I watch this show for a half hour?
I think it's totally reasonable. Why not? Again, it's going to be in a small area that's well defined, and so I think the reliability, I completely see that, and sooner than we think.
When do you think that's going to happen?
I think it's going to happen. I still think, there's going to be enough hardware 4 inference and enough hardware 3 inference compute at the edge that as soon as they get the model right for a geographic area that permits them to do it, they win. So to me, with the compute scenarios and how big Tesla has gone as far as capital investment to make this happen, I think if they can be given a geographic area to say, hey guys, right here, go. I think they get it done in 6 months to a year.
For where you follow Waymo, you do California, Arizona, and then I'd assume Texas would be the most open. And if you have Texas and California, you have 2 of the largest markets available.
It's not going to be California, entire state. It's going to be just Omar's neighborhood, basically, first. You know what I mean? Like, do you think that's going to be valuable? How material do you think that's going to be for this stock? NeuroNet?
My problem is the most advantageous area to deploy FSD is political poison right now. So I think California is the best area. I think it's the most mapped. Everything is great, and it's the closest to, it's the closest state. They've worked with Tesla, probably the closest than any other state in Tesla's history, and they would probably be the first ones to say, you know what, guys, here you go. Here's 20 square miles, 50 square miles, some borders, go. But if they're not, I don't know.
Hustle town.
I'll play devil's advocate, I guess. I don't, whatever they do for that, I think it'll be short lived. I think the rate of progress, once they're able to like tell you you're okay to not pay attention, I think they're going to be on the brink of something truly special and generalized and going to cover most of the nation. So I'll push back a little bit, but I think they'll have, actual smart summit and these things. You still got to monitor it. I would say sometime in 2026 for FSD users, they're going to be all right. You don't have to monitor the actual smart summon. They'll be able to let the car go remotely by itself. And as long as Tesla insurance is going to cover anything, because I don't think the car will hit anything, but there will be things that hit the car. And I think that's their only. I've always thought that they could unleash something like Waymo or Cruise or anything in a select city like Omar's neighborhood. They could do that right now. They could go to the airport in China if they wanted to. I believe that too. But I think they're going for something bigger. That's all. They want to unlock something much bigger.
Neil?
I just would say I agree with you because I think Elon does go super big, huge big, but going with a global model or even with a national model, like, hey, we're ready across the US, like you create a regulatory crisis for everywhere, just everything at that point, right? Like just because, there's a fantastic entrepreneur who believes this highly advanced technology is ready to deploy nationally doesn't mean it will. And even if they do perfect it to the point of a national rollout, I still don't think you can just, speak the word and it happens, right? It's still going to have, it's going to create a regulatory crisis is my thought.
Hustle Town.
The data will speak for itself. I'm still waiting for the time where Elon and Ashok get in the back seat and they do their drive for wherever. The data will speak for itself. It won't be because he
Well,
said
look,
so.
let me ask you something. Let's pin you down to a coffee bet. I don't think you have a coffee bet. Do you have a coffee bet?
I do not, and I am
Yeah.
graciously awaiting it.
Let's pop your cherry. So you said 2026. What do you expect exactly by 2026 in 2026?
I definitely think that the Cybercab will have its robo taxis going on, but for consumers like myself that have their own vehicles and FSD, um, I believe that they're going to be able to banish their vehicles and use actual smart summon and not be responsible for having to look at it.
Okay, so you said you definitely think cybercabs will have a robotaxi happening. Right?
Yes, and something meaningful too, not like onesie twosies. I think they'll have meaning. By Q4 2026, I'm gonna say they'll be collecting like 1,000 fares in a month.
1,000 a month.
1,000 fares.
I mean
easy.
that's not a huge
That's not a
prediction
lot.
though, because the thing is, like, if you're doing 1,000 a month and let's say you're making $10 on each trip, that's $10,000 a month. That's nothing. You want to make a bigger prediction or what?
I guess I could go big. I mean, what would you recommend?
Well, so let's focus on, let's say, the number of robotaxis, the number of cybercabs. So you think there's going to be thousands of them by the end of 2026 on the roads?
Collecting fares? Yes, I believe that.
Okay, that's the bet. I'm going to type this in while Alexander, maybe Dallas speaks in the meantime. Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on that, not the coffee bet, but to touch on this topic, regulation follows innovation. So if your holdup for innovating is regulation, then you need to get out of the game. So I would say Waymo's having no trouble driving people around without a driver in the car. I don't think the regulatory bodies care about the tech that's getting us to autonomy. They just care about how safe the autonomy is. And I'm confident that the vision-based approach will be safer than Waymo's approach, obviously. So I think they'll have no problem getting it approved. It will take a while, though, for sure.
All right, Hustle Town. I pinned it at the top. So make sure it's going to take a little bit to show up, but make sure the wording is as you wish. Okay. 1,000 plus Tesla robotaxis by 2026, and by means by the end of, in my bets. Okay. While you read that, Uzi.
I also wanted to point out some guy named Holmar's blog just posted an hour ago. A Chinese robotaxi provider is cleared to operate in California and San Jose. So they'll have 12 active vehicles. So I don't know if that's what you're saying Omar is, but it does seem like
what are they called?
We Ride.
Yeah, so we talked about it yesterday. Were you not here for that discussion?
I think I came in the last half yesterday. Maybe I was there for the first half.
Yeah, so this company, they've been testing with drivers, and they just applied to test without drivers. And they are working, they want to IPO at a $5 billion valuation. So,
I remember that part.
Okay. Neil?
So I'd like to add, just in regards to regulation, and I absolutely agree, innovation and pace of innovation is all that actually matters, but ultimately regulation can destroy cash flow and create moats. And you can think about OpenAI and their cries for regulation in the same way. And we get a difficult situation that we have to deal with. We don't want to have to deal with lawfare, and we want to regulate to the extent that it protects people, not companies, right? And therein lies the danger. So I still think, as crazy as this sounds, guys, I think the tech is so goddamn good. Oh, sorry, so good that people are going to stop this now. The tech's not. People are going to become the problem.
Okay. And the folks in YouTube, please let me know how the audio quality is. What do you mean by people are going to be the problem, Neil?
Just there will be, if Elon develops the technology, there's going to be a certain, whether it's in a specific country or continent, there's going to be a group of people that said, even though they have a flawless technology and we think this would be good, we don't want to enrich this individual, so we're just going to say no and we're just going to wait. And ultimately, when I say regulation destroys cash flow, it's because a lot of times you're just trying to get a product to market really quick because you don't have the money to just play this game and drag it on through the mud and so forth. I think Tesla does, thank goodness, which is why, again, I continue to bet on them, because I think they can fight through the regulatory hurdles, whether they are political or technical, right, to get all the way through. And I think the more I look at this situation, I think the technical problems will be solved before the political ones will be, which is also my experience in corporate America, right? Like, it's rarely a technology problem.
Alexander.
Yeah, I agree. Regulatory issues will be massive. I mean, just imagine how many people work in transport and how that's going to disrupt the market for workers and so on.
Alexander. So I posted, man, this is wild. I posted an image generated by Grok today for fun. I said, just generate this image and do it like this, make it like that. And every single person in the replies is laughing and making jokes. And Alexander zooms into the nose and shows like a one imperfection. And I'm like, man, I love my European followers. They love to focus on the negative, however small the negative is. They just it never fails. The positivity of the United States is just not there in Europe. No offense.
Man, you had a cyber nose. I had to lay that comment.
I don't know, man. Why don't you say something positive about FSD?
Well, at least it works in the US, so I guess that's good.
Did you see what I mean? Like, Uzi, why don't you say something positive about FSD?
I just love Alex, so I can't do him dirty like that.
Dallas, why don't you talk some positivity into FSD?
I mean, I'm the biggest advocate for FSD. Anyone I know knows. I mean, I'm the one who goes to dinner and people bring up, hey, do you think cars will overdrive themselves? And then my wife has to shut me up on the topic. But I've sold more people on Teslas just by putting them in my car and driving them around before FSD was even a thing. That now when I get people in my car and they experience FSD for the first time, as we all know, from the passenger seat, FSD is mind blowing. When you're sitting in the driver's seat, it's not as amazing, especially for someone who's never seen it before. It was really cool. Yesterday, I actually got in my car. I never ride in the passenger seat in my car. And I kind of let my wife take over the FSD. And it was like I was experiencing it for the first time, even though I use it every day, because you're sitting on the other side of the car. And it kind of had that mind-blowing feeling all over again.
Neil.
I'd like to say some positive things about FSD. I think we are riding the S curve, and it's a wild ride. I remember back when Tesla owners Silicon Valley John and Tesla Raj got the first FSD update in the Model X. They took it. It blew our minds that this car stopped at a stop sign, put its turn signal on, and took a right. This wasn't very long ago. We are just riding an S curve that is so hot, and things have been so good that we have such high expectations. High expectations are great, but most people can't even conceptualize that very first moment back in the day. So it's just enjoy the S curve while it lasts, because it's going to be quick and then it's going to be gone.
Uzi, and then about Tesla.
I just want to know if Alex has been in the US for FSD, because when I was in it, it was a spiritual experience. And this was 12.3.6.
Alex, have you ever used FSD in US?
No, I have never been to the US, but I'm planning on
that's
going.
The problem. I don't think that's the problem. I see this over the years. There's just negativity in that part of the world. About Tesla.
Well, I can say a few words about positive words about FSD. First of all, in my own experience, early last year, my no intervention or no disengagement drives were very rare. Almost, I wouldn't have a day without disengagements, and that was normal. Today, it is normal to not have any disengagements, and any interventions are more like convenience interventions that I'm having, like tapping an accelerator or initiating a lane change just to get out of the way of someone. So that's my personal experience, and I'm not in California, I'm in Ohio. The second thing I wanted to say about FSD on the positive side is that we need to realize that this version in its current incarnation hasn't been out for 2 years. So, I mean, it's been designed less than 2 years ago. They started from scratch. They threw away all the previously written code. So basically, from a clean sheet, they didn't put any initial knowledge about. They didn't explain what the traffic lights are, what the lanes are. Didn't explain it anything. Didn't program. Didn't code anything for that. And they just started teaching it from scratch, from zero, basically. And in less than 2 years, this is what we got. It's almost perfect. It's perfect, like, 95% of the time. It's not perfect completely, of course. But the progress that this version made from scratch, from zero, in less than 2 years is mind-blowing. I cannot imagine what it will do in the next 2 years.
Thank you about Tesla. There you go, Alexander. Some example of American positivity. Dallas.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I mean, we look at version 11 as if it's some Windows 95 operating system of, disastrous proportion. And remember, when V11 came out, it was mind-blowing. Guys, this came out in March of 2023. So here we are, August of 2024, everyone's impatient. My car doesn't get the new version, this, that, it's a point release, I want this. In March of 2023. So here we are, August of 2024. Everyone's impatient. My car doesn't get the new version, this, that, it's a point release, I want this. I mean, guys, a year ago we were on version 11, and V12 is blowing V11 out of the water. If you forget how bad it was, go take your car on the highway right now, and it's still driving on the V11 stack. And I did this yesterday. I talked about it with Omar. It felt completely different than what we're used to on city streets. So the amount of change we've made in just over a year is mind-blowing. I mean, this is going to get exponentially better as we go on, and I'm just excited for the next 2 to 3 years on where this thing really goes.
Hey, Dallas, why are you so scared of coffee? Like, as soon as you kind of sense a coffee bed is coming, we'll like back off and run away.
Never have done that, but I'd love to know when I've done that.
Okay, I'll let you know. Sierra, welcome.
Hey, I have some positive anecdotes that I can add about FSD. Last week, I took my son to Legoland in New York, which is about 60 miles north of New York City. I'm in South Jersey, so it was like a 3.5 hour drive for me. The way there and the way back, it was torrentially downpouring. I had like close to zero visibility on the road. But FSD, despite the fact that the notice that it might be degraded popped up occasionally, could see so much better than I could, and also all of the other human drivers on the road. And on the way home, it was a long day. I drove 3.5 hours there. We were at a theme park all day. I was tired, and I was so grateful to not have, like, if I were manually driving on the New Jersey Turnpike in rush hour traffic, in blackout conditions, I would be so stressed. My body would be like tense. I'd be hugging up on the wheel, and I'm not very tall, so I have to like lean in to see over the dash. And I was so relaxed knowing that my car had it. Like, I just felt so much safer and so grateful to have that. And I was comparing what could be seen by the computer vision versus with my naked eye, and the car could undoubtedly see more than me. And it lane kept well, and it reduced the speed on its own, probably to keep up with traffic, but also, I believe, because of the weather conditions. So I'm extremely bullish on FSD. It makes me so much more relaxed as a driver. I feel safer on the road.
There you go. Perfect. Tom, did you hear all that?
Oh, the FSD stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people.
I mean, Elon says that the companies that cannot figure out self-driving will die. His words.
Yeah, I'm not really buying that. But you know, Elon's said some things over the years I don't agree with, just like Donald Trump has said things over the years I don't agree with. You know, I don't think anyone's perfectly right all the time, but if they want to champion this technology and improve it, that's definitely their right to do so. You know, there's no problem with that.
We have a couple of hands. Let's hear what they have to say real quick. Neil and then Alexander, then Hustletown.
Yep. So really quick, I'd just like to say again, I don't think we appreciate the pace of innovation that Tesla is putting forward in all of their products. You barely get enough time to complain about something before it changes. Think about this. I don't know how often Blue Cruise is updated. I don't know how often GM changes their batteries or does anything else, but you have to think about pace of innovation as a key metric for success. And if your company isn't innovating at a pace that is sickening, if things aren't changing quickly, you lose.
Neil, when do you expect the first few thousand robotaxis? So based on the pace of innovation that you're seeing, that you believe is very high, when do you expect the first few thousand robotaxis?
And again, I will reiterate that I believe right now technology is not the long pole in the tent. Regulation is, and I think it's going to be end of 2026 because we're going to have to get through the election cycle, let the technology prove itself, over and over. But end of 26, I think the dam breaks, and we have the first robo taxis.
First few thousand was the bet. So I'm going to make you a bet as well. I don't think we're going to get few thousand robo taxis by the end of 2026.
That's a tough bet. Okay.
What do you mean? You just said end of 20.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I was thinking robo taxis, not few thousand. I was, okay. Well, I'll still take it.
Okay.
How many are on the road right now?
0. Alexander.
You didn't specify geography, FYI.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I wanted to agree with Sierra. Like, even autopilot can drive through some really rough rain. First time I saw it, I was like, how is this even possible? I can't even see the road.
Okay, Hustletown and Dallas. No hands mode while I type this up.
All right. So, you ever been driving, going west during sunset, and the sun is just beating you in the face, and you got sunshades on? Well, I'm coming up on this stoplight, and there is, heavy traffic, but I have confidence in FSD that it's going to do the right thing, even though I cannot see what's going on. So, Sierra is 100%. I'm looking at my visualization on that more than I am looking outside sometimes, because I know it sees more than I do. And when it comes down to Elon saying that those that don't figure out FSD, they're going to perish, they're just going to license FSD. What the real key metric will be, can they produce battery electric vehicles profitably? Those people will survive, and the rest will just subscribe to FSD.
Someone shared a post on this, I think a couple weeks back, about how cameras perceive rain versus the human eye. And it's what really opened my eyes up to trusting the system in the pouring rain. I mean, naturally, we're all going to look at the rain and go, okay, well, my eyes are better than the camera, so the camera must not be seeing anything. No, it's quite the opposite. I mean, these Tesla cameras, I'm on hardware 4, so I'm assuming it's a little better than 3, but they almost don't see the rain, even when it's torrentially downpouring. So you really can rely on the system in a torrential downpour. And it just takes an example, like she just mentioned, of just trusting the system in the rain, and then you'll trust it forever. So,
Ellie.
Hey, thanks. So, according to what Omar said yesterday and what Sarah just mentioned a few minutes ago, I mean, FSD, even the way it is right now with no improvements, just the fact that it won't be robotaxi, I think it's fine just the way it is. I mean, just to have like 3-4 hours of driving, relaxed, chill, somebody's driving for you, that's good enough. Robotaxi will be awesome. That's my take. But FSD in its current version, I think it's like worth what it is.
I mean, you say that. I agree with you. I mean, when I'm driving a Tesla, 99% of my miles are on FSD. When it's not on FSD, I don't feel as safe. Honestly, frankly, this is literally the case. But most of the population don't agree with us. And most of the population, I don't think will agree with us until they can stop paying attention altogether. Sierra?
Just one more positive anecdote about FSC that I think is really underrated and people don't talk about it a lot. But the not having to navigate manually is amazing. Like when I'm traveling to new places, I used to get so stressed out about navigation and having to pay attention to my GPS, and I would like miss exits or not be in the proper lane to make a turn. To be able to just plug in my destination and just cruise and like get there without having to think about it at all is one of the most valuable features of FSD for me. That 3.5 hour ride through 3 different states would have been so stressful for me, navigating interstates and exits and all of that, and making sure I'm in the right lanes, and all of that goes away.
Good. Neil?
Okay, so I'd like to posit this, and you can give me your arguments. But if full self-driving is a compute problem, and we can even remotely respect Moore's law, the cost of FSD goes down over time, the safety goes up. How do we lose here?
Sorry, Habib just replied and completely threw off my attention. And here's what he said.
Oh my God, you love me more than Habib?
Habib says
he's OG subscriber.
He is. Habib says, I'll sponsor this space, and my request is to change the name to, quote, bunch of people talk about Tesla using anecdotal evidence supported by emotional connection to the company.
How much? Can you put a number to this?
$239 a month.
That's pretty good.
I'll do it that way for like 10 minutes. I mean, if that's the deal, do it on the web, not on the app. Dallas.
Yeah, something that was actually just brought up is while we're on the topic of cameras in FSD, I think something that's completely underrated is that it has 360-degree view of your driving environment. Humans are not great drivers, but we're pretty good drivers, but we can only see in front of us. We require mirrors all around the vehicle to see what's in front of us and behind us, and at the same time. And something that FSD is already better at than humans is seeing what's behind the vehicle while we're driving. So I think that's an underrated feature of the software.
Neil.
I believe the value of my statement was eclipsed by Habib's donation, but I'd like to just repeat it one more time. If FSD is a compute problem and the cost of compute goes down over time and the safety of FSD goes up over time, why would you not invest in that? How are we losing there? Right?
Well, here's how you're losing. You're making an assumption that this is a compute problem. That's an assumption. We don't know.
Yes, that's
we don't know. We don't know if we're going to be able to solve it.
Yes, I would like the devil's advocate for that argument. If it's not a compute problem, then what problem is it?
Well, I mean, Elon thought that in 2016, and he said in his master plan part 2 that once you get to 6 billion miles, you should have global regulatory approval. And he was referring to autopilot miles at the time. There was no FSD. And since then, they had to change direction a number of times. They had to go to the drawing board a number of times. So you can't just extrapolate today's solution and just hope that it's going to work.
No.
Yeah, those scaling laws that you're talking about are really just a guideline, it seems. It's a good guideline, but okay.
But eventually,
I'm happy to do more bets.
It sounds like a bet. Let me think about it.
Okay. Ellie.
Yeah, man, do you think that people want it to be 100%, full self driving because of the wording of Elon Musk, because of the label? Because no other company can do whatever FSD is doing, right? So maybe, I'm just trying to be like devil advocate, like Neil here. Do you think that's the reason?
No, I think people always want stuff for free. Whatever you call it, they will always want more for less. Dallas?
Yeah, can I bring up a particular instance on FSD that I noticed today to see if anyone else is having this?
Yes.
Okay. So I was driving into a school zone and nothing, or can see everything totally fine. Maybe I'm the only one having this, but school zones still are not working for me on 12.5.1.3. Hoping that's just my car, but we're back in school season.
So
there's cops in every school.
I can already tell you did not watch the interview with Dirty Tesla, did you?
No, I have not watched the interview yet.
Yeah, there you go. Go watch the interview, and your answer is there. You know what? I noticed, Dallas, when I was reviewing yesterday's episode for my patrons, I was a little too harsh on you. So I apologize. The answer is that the school zones don't work just yet. The FSD doesn't work consistently at the school zones just yet. So you're not the only one.
Okay.
Sierra?
So, unpopular take, I guess, because I've heard that before. But in my area, have kind of the opposite problem with school zones in that it does work and reduce the speed limit, but it's not fully interpreting the signs with like the hours and days of the week and such. So I have 3 schools in the very close vicinity of my home, and my car will not do over 15 miles an hour through there, uh, even in the summertime and on weekends when school is not in session.
Well, I mean, do you call that a success though?
No, I would like it obviously to be able to fully interpret the law there and abide by the school zone laws when school is in session, or even just on weekdays. Like that's fine, even if it's at like 8 p.m. on a weekday because sports and activities and stuff. But like maybe know that on weekends we can go 25 would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even clear. I mean, about Tesla, what do you think about this? It's not even clear if they're trying to solve that just now. I think they're focused on more kind of making what works today, the 99% of the miles that you can handle today, more convenient, more smoother, and increase the adoption rate as ADAS.
Yeah, regarding the slowdowns or going too fast in the school zones, what I noticed is that actually depends on whether you have this the auto offset, speed offset set or not. If you have it set, then it may actually go much slower, and vice versa. So it's just basically different settings cause different results. Neither one is correct though. So sometimes it goes over the speed limit, or sometimes it goes much slower than the speed limit, and it's pretty inconsistent. Different areas. I mean, it is consistent in a single place, but it's varies from one place to another. So it definitely doesn't handle the school zones. As far as why they cannot do that, I don't know. That bothers me because it's been for years. I mean, they could have fixed this long time ago. Maybe it's just because it's so complex, and maybe they don't want not ready to take responsibility for school zones yet. So it's just easier for them to say, "Oh no, we don't handle it yet," until they
Right.
do it 100% perfectly.
Right.
Maybe that's the reason. But other than that, it doesn't look like it's something that is unsolvable. I even came up with one idea how this can be solved is like what they can read map changes like traffic information in real time. So what if they would have just a server somewhere that would keep track of all the schools and what time is the school zone is in effect in each area? I think it would be a solvable problem. And then each car approaching the school zone could just request that information instead of trying to interpret the signs. Sometimes those signs are really hard to understand, even if you know English.
Right.
But if they could do it like like have a server that keeps track of all the school times
Right.
and would just in real time provide that information to cars, then they can act accordingly.
Thank you. Dallas, then Neil, then Omar.
Yeah, I think he's right. And I think the reason it can't rely on vision-based approach to reading the signs per se is because the case I was in today was I turned out of a neighborhood into an active school zone. So I actually didn't cross a quote unquote line where there's a sign with a yellow blinking light. I just jumped into a school zone that was existing. So I didn't see a blinking yellow, but I know the area well enough to know it is a school zone. So that's why I think he's right. I think it's going to have to be some database approach that knows your vehicle is in an active school zone rather than relying on reading the signs.
Neil?
No, I actually totally disagree with that. I think vision only is actually what matters. You absolutely cannot have the internet as a requirement for a life-saving device. So that's not going to work. What really matters is that ultimately this technology won't be deployed in school zones until it's really mature. So, like I said before, we can talk about global inconsistencies, but what's really going to matter for robotaxi in the near term is localized inconsistencies. What's the robotaxi route? What does it do? And
Okay.
can it succeed? Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree with the vision only approach. You cannot rely on internet. You cannot rely on some sort of database that's obviously going to be obsolete at some point. Things change all the time. You have to be able to read what's in front of you and interpret it correctly, better than a human, for it to roll out. I agree with about Tesla's point that this is one of those examples, like handling an emergency vehicle or handling a school zone, when you cannot make a mistake. You make one mistake and your entire program is at risk. I mean, look at what happened to Uber's program a couple of years ago. What happened to Cruise? They have to be very careful rolling out these specific scenarios where a mistake can mean a very catastrophic result. So Omar is here, but before Omar gets to speak, this episode is proudly sponsored by Joa Life. I had my first sponsors only space earlier today. It was a success. We discussed different strategies, what we can do. I want to understand the businesses a bit more. And so for one example, at the top of our screens is Joa's newest product, a wireless controller that is also charging wirelessly. You can see the product in the picture, and use the code TSLA Live for 5%. The link also directly takes you to the product. Omar, how are you?
Hey, doing good.
Good. What's new with you? We only have about another half hour to go today. Another half hour, and then we'll call it a day. What's new with you?
Nothing. I mean, we've got some interesting data coming out from Kelly Blue Book and others. Tesla's doing very well in China.
What's the
FSD
data from Kelly
continues.
Blue Book?
Well, they said that Cybertruck is the best-selling vehicle over $100,000 again in July, maintaining that from the previous month. So continued strong Cybertruck sales there. I don't think anyone predicted it would be the best-selling vehicle of any kind in its price range, best-selling gas or electric car. So that's pretty interesting. We also got some pretty interesting pricing data on Model 3 and Y for the US market. So that's pretty interesting. We also got some pretty interesting pricing data on Model 3 and Y for the US market. Okay, so Model Y and Model 3. In July, the average transaction price for the Model Y was $52,055, up 5% from January, while the Model 3 was $53,878, more than $1,800 more than the Model 3, up a remarkable 30% from January, when Model 3 average transaction prices were just $41,531. The Model Y and Model 3 are the top selling EVs in the US market.
All right, that's great. About Tesla.
Does that include the tax credits, or is it not included in that price?
That doesn't include the credit. That's just the average selling price. Any credit deduction would come under that. So, I think it speaks to the power of the Model 3 update. The fact that Model 3 is a lower priced car, but the average selling price last month was actually higher than the Model Y. I think it speaks to the power of those improvements, particularly the new Model 3 performance they've done. Now, I would expect that when the new Model Y comes, you would actually see a corresponding increase in ASPs in the Model Y line as well. And the weakness in Model 3 in January, average transaction prices more than $10,000 lower, I think kind of reflects some of the headwinds that the Model Y is seeing now with this update coming in. People are obviously aware of this. The existing Model Y inventory is selling for a lower price. And because that represents more than 50% of Tesla's sales volume last year, it's very significant. It's a very significant headwind. So that coming out as the new Model Y ramps, which, I think is going to be challenging to ramp something like the Model Y, a vehicle of that volume. But as they do it, I think you'd expect to see an increase in ASPs, and the sort of headwind the business is facing to their core auto segment would alleviate.
When do you think they're going to start production of the new Model Y?
It's a good question. I would think maybe Q4 in Shanghai, followed by maybe Q1 or Q2 in the United States.
Well, Tesla, what do you think?
I don't know. No idea.
So, Omar, do you think the new Model Y production is going to take the entire 2025 to ramp? I mean, the new Model 3 took a couple of quarters. Do you think we're going to see some sort of a production ramp hell for the new Model Y?
What I would do if I were Tesla is, rather than starting production at all factories at the same time, start production of the new one, discount the old one, continue selling that, ramp up the new one, then switch over and discontinue the old one. So, I mean, it's challenging. They've never done a product refresh at this scale. 1.2 million Model Y units last year, best-selling car on Earth, right? So nobody is really doing a product transition at this scale except maybe Toyota. And the Model 3 is produced in 2 factories. The Model Y is produced in 4 factories. So that's going to add some additional complexity as well. On top of that, we've also got Tesla saying that they're going to start producing new lower cost models on the same line as the 3 and Y. So you're going to have to ramp up this new Y while simultaneously also ramping up these potential newer models that are lower cost that are supposed to be produced on the same production line. So maybe they'll work that all together somehow, but it does seem like it's not going to be as easy as snapping a finger. There are a lot of challenges you can imagine trying to pull off a transition like that in your most popular product.
Yeah. So there's significant production ramp risk throughout the next 12 to 18 months, let's say. Do you think Tesla will use the unboxed assembly method to ramp the Model 3, Model Y, and the 2 affordable models? And then Tom.
No, I don't think they're going to. They actually said they weren't going to. The Robo Taxi vehicle, the dedicated Robo Taxi, will be made on the unbox process, but the more affordable models, as well as the 3 and Y, are going to continue to be made on the same production lines that they've already been using.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I was just want to know, if you wanted to make another bet with me, a little coffee bet on the best-selling cars of 2024, I firmly believe the Ford F-Series is going to outsell the Model Y, according to everything I'm seeing. What do you have to say about that?
You mean, hold on, who are you offering to, Tom? Me or Omar?
Anyone.
So
anyone with a pulse.
You're saying in the US or globally?
Let's see here. I mean, according to Ford, this is 300,000. They've already beat 300,000. Let's see here. 352,000 units of the F Series. This is updated as of July 19th. And then what I'm reading here is that the Tesla Model Y series is sitting at 116,799 units. This is units sold July 19, 2024.
I mean, I'll take you up, but not for 2025. I'll take you up for 2026.
But this is 2024. This is current. This is this year, 2024.
No, I got you. But, we're forecasting, right? So I'll take a bet with you for Model Y versus F-150 or F-Series sales for 2026?
Well, not this year, though, huh?
Not this year. I mean, this year is kind of done.
So we will sell more Ford F Series this year than the Model Y, despite.
Well, last year the Ford F Series sold about, I think, 750,000.
It's correct.
And the Model Y globally sold about 1.2 million. So in the US, there were more F Series sold than Model Y. Globally, there were more Model Y sold than F Series. And I mean, also, if we're going to talk about F Series, which is F-150, F-250, then I think we should probably be allowed to add up Model 3 and Y sales together. And that puts us at around 1.8.
I mean, if that's the case, why don't we just add in all the Ford vehicles? I mean, if we can just throw in all of them, I mean, that's what you're doing there, right?
Well, if you get to have multiple Ford models as part of the F Series, the Model 3 and Y are pretty similar products. They're built on the same platform.
Tom, when do you think Tesla will outsell Ford on a global basis, all vehicles?
When will Tesla outsell Ford on a global basis? I don't know. I mean, who knows, man? The Chinese, who knows? I have no idea. You got communist countries that are writing this stuff regulatory wise into law to make it more feasible for electric vehicle companies and less feasible. So the government dictate globally could very well, mainstream EVs into certain countries despite what the people want, which just reduces freedom and liberty around the world. It's not really, democratic or peacekeeping, but, that's just my opinion, right? I don't know. I mean, it depends on what governments do. A government is capable of outlawing ICE engines overnight, then of course, there would be a lot more EVs on the road. And so it depends on how extreme the governments get. But if it's up to the people and they're making the choices, it's going to be a completely different scenario. But we've already seen government regulation step in the way of ICE vehicles in America and continue to, with the creation of the DEF system requirements for diesel vehicles. There's quite a few things.
Okay, so
you get a problem.
Let's assume that the governments do not outban ICE vehicles. In what year do you think Tesla will first outsell Ford overall globally?
I don't know. I don't know if it'll. I don't know, man. I can't say. I can't look into the crystal ball and tell you, because the governments do pass policies and the governments do allow crazy stuff to happen. So that's just not reality, And I live in reality.
I mean, you wanted a coffee bet. I'm trying to get you more coffee bets. Uzi.
I think the majority of this space has a free market bias, and they don't.
That's Uzi.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear him.
I'll be back.
All right, well, I'll continue. I think the majority of this space is a free market bias. So arguing about, China being an authoritarian nation is not really related to what we consider. I think we're also mostly American or European. And then on the other hand, we also believe Teslas, I'm not going to say EVs in general, because there's the Fiskers of the world, but Teslas for sure are superior technology to ICE vehicles. And maybe the only counter argument is charging. And I think in the long term that will be hashed out, and you'll have, the future of the world will be predominantly EVs. And obviously there's the hybrid argument, but for the most part, they're just ICE vehicles that have good branding.
Alexander.
Yeah, Tom, what do you think about the freedom to breathe clean air?
Think about the what? You're at to speak up a little bit. I have a problem hearing you.
Tom, let me ask you. Let me reword that. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page about a couple of things. One, we both want clean air, clean water for everyone. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Republicans have always wanted clean air and clean water. That's a complete misnomer. It's a misguided argument. You can look at legislation that Republicans have supported in the past as proof of this. That this idea that Republicans wouldn't want that.
So you do want that. I just want to make sure. And then at the same time, you also agree that ICE engines, including diesel, produce more emissions, right? Because
No.
EVs don't produce any
I
emissions.
don't, because see, our root difference in argument here, and which one that you won't admit to, or you just have a different opinion. Whereas I'm looking at factual data as where the power is generated to charge these ICE vehicles from. You don't consider that in the equation. You only look at the vehicle once it's charged. That's the difference between you and I.
No, that's not true. I do consider that, and I actually shared lots of data over the last weekend and tagged you on it as well. Electric motors are 4 times more efficient in propelling the vehicle versus an ICE engine. And even if you assume the entire electrical grid is run on coal, which is obviously not the case, it would still reduce emissions if the entire fleet is EVs versus ICE. And over time, electrical grid is getting more and more green with sustainable energy sources. So I am looking at the facts. Between the two of us, I think the only person who's not looking at acknowledging the facts is you.
Well, you can sit here and make that claim all you want, buddy. That's okay. This is your difference in opinion. I have plenty of facts to back up my opinion. So,
No,
and that's
I don't think
okay.
so. I think the facts are on our side.
If you want to hold that opinion, that's your right to as well. We have freedom of speech here in America, the First Amendment. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to silence you because you hold that viewpoint either.
Yeah. Okay, Neil.
So I'd just like to say, in regards to ICE versus EV and the ultimate long-term scenario, I'd like to just say I don't think we escape the Pareto principle. And what that means is 20% of our issues cause 80% of the problems, and 20% of our issues are ICE road truckers, long haul, etc. So I think ultimately the Pareto principle plays out on EV. 80% of the transport is EV, 20% of it is diesel, because it's so crazy. You just can't get the batteries right. But that, I don't think we escape that. I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah, the power of diesel cannot be replaced, as the gentleman just spoke. That's one problem.
Hey, Tom, somebody said in the replies that if somebody made a phone running on diesel power, you would buy one. Is that right?
We already have a phone that runs on diesel power. Every time I start up a diesel generator and I plug my phone into it, I'm charging my phone on diesel. In fact, I have one sitting in my driveway right now. It's called a Ford F-250, and I've charged this phone probably 60% of the time using my diesel truck. So I'm happy to say I already own a diesel generator. It goes with me everywhere I drive, and it's capable of powering 120 volts at a time. I can actually power more. I could have ordered the one with a dual alternator on it as well. It's a special option that was available all the way back in 2013. You can also get an air compressor option for the back of it, so you can air the tires. There's so many available features on the Ford F-250.
Wonderful.
It'd shock you, blow your mind.
Okay, great. I hope somebody in the audience uses Grok to generate an image of Tom using his phone and carrying around a diesel generator everywhere he goes.
I drive it. It's called a pickup truck. It's awesome.
You take it to
amazing
the bed.
stuff.
I bet you take it to the bed too.
I mean, I sleep less than 100 feet away from it and have an alarm on it. If anybody touches it, I know. So the alarm function takes its place right next to me on the nightstand. And if anybody touches my baby, I'm gonna know.
By the way, I want to address something. A couple episodes ago, when I was reviewing for patrons, I noticed that you were talking about regen in your diesel engine. If I understand it correctly, so I looked into it. If I understand it correctly, the regen is the engine cleaning itself by burning off, kind of like how an oven self-cleans itself. That's not the regen that we're talking about when we talk about electric motors, right?
Yeah, this is what you call an exhaust gas recirculation system that's going through a regeneration process where all that soot and nastiness, or not all of it, because a lot of it gets trapped in your engine, actually never makes its way out, but a good portion of it gets blown out by heating the engine up to a high temperature on purpose. And it does this wherever. It doesn't matter if you're parked on Rodeo Drive or in front of the governor's mansion in California. I could drive mine over to California with a DEF system in it and let it regen right in front of the liberals.
We don't have
That's
we
right.
don't have much. We
That
don't have
works.
much time left, Tom.
Oh, I'm
Sorry,
just telling you, that's how it
sorry.
works.
I got you, but you just repeated what I said basically. So it's kind of like how your oven self cleans itself. That's not the regen where we talk about electric motors. The regen in Teslas is when the electric motors propelling the car forward is turning in one direction. When it's slowing, when you pull your foot off the accelerator pedal, the electric motor turns the other way and converts kinetic energy into potential and back into potential energy in your batteries. So it recharges your battery. So basically conserves energy. And that's part of the reason why electric motors are so much more efficient than ICE engines. With the other reason being obviously ICE engines lose most of the energy as heat. So that's a different type of regen. It's a misnomer to equate those two, as you did 2 episodes
No,
ago.
I didn't equate them. That's actually what it's called by Ford.
No, you said F2 by F250 does regen too. That's what you said, buddy.
Yeah, it's a different type of regeneration, but it's called regeneration. If you want to get really technical about it, that's what we call it. It's called regenning. You could Google it, to my point, and see how many hits come up on Ford F250 regen. Okay, just type that in and you'll see that's what we call it.
Yeah, I did. I did my research.
Hold on,
my research. Yeah.
I have to leave, unfortunately, to go hold my Rush Limbaugh weekly space. But I'll be back next time. Y'all have a good one. I'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, Tom. Catch you on the flip side. Omar, do you know where that catch you on the flip side comes from?
Skateboarding?
No. Who knows? Let's see if anyone knows. Neil, do you know?
No, it's just some '90s kid bullcrap, dude. Catch on the flip. That's all it is.
Yeah, but where does it come from?
Comes from just being old and out of touch.
No, so you don't know
I
either.
wish I didn't understand it.
Just
feel
say
like
you
I'm,
don't know.
outing
Dallas,
myself.
Dallas, do you know?
That's when you flip a record over.
Correct. See, Dallas knows. Back in the day, when the radio host was playing records, they would flip when the record was down on one side, they would flip it on the other side and say "kiss you on the flip side."
Oh.
Yeah. Steven's coming up to tell us the same. Dallas, go ahead. Oh, hold on. Let's hear from Steven first. We haven't heard from Steven in a while. Oh no, connection issues. Dallas, go ahead, and then Finflexity.
Yeah, were you able to see the chart that I tagged you in with comparing the two company sales in US?
Let's see. Oh, I see it. Yes. Oh, what did you use to do this?
GPT-4o. Granted,
Nice.
the sales figures on the first field are rounded versus exact on the second one, but I mean, it cites the sources below and everything.
Yeah, great. So this is at the top of your screens. Ford is selling 2 million. Tesla sales are rising. Yeah, I mean, 2026 is when it's going to happen, I think. When Cybertruck ramps, when the new Model Y ramps, that's when it's going to happen. Thank you, Dallas. Finflexity.
Yeah, so when we were talking about F1, the F series sales, so I actually started digging it up, and they don't publish any worldwide figures for the F series particularly, but given the total percentage of distribution between North America and the world, F series sales will probably be around 1 million and less than 1.2 million definitely globally. It's just assuming that the proportion in US sales and international sales are equal for the F series as well.
Neil, thank you.
Hey, so just want to say quickly in regards to F250 regen, I think what he was really talking about is just blowing carbon out of his ICE engine. It was basically just cleaning it through back pressure. It had nothing to do with energy capture. It was really just the cleaning of a dirty ice burning engine by back pressure.
Yeah. Omar, how you doing over there?
Good. Getting ready to drive to LA.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, excited to use FSD.
What do you think of today's stock price action?
To Doesn't matter. It's flat. I mean, I'm shocked this thing is still under 300. Hopefully, more analysts will keep trying FSD, and then this thing will be re-rated. But it's not really going anywhere. The market can sometimes make you wait a long time for your thesis to play out. The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. Just because your thesis makes sense doesn't necessarily mean it's going to play out instantly. So I see some encouraging signs. I think, rates starting to come down next month. I think some of the new changes to the product lineup, 1010, some of the new, more affordable models we're going to see, their strength in China, the global rollout of FSD and the progress they've been making. This is all good, but it's probably going to continue to take several quarters or years to play out. So I don't really get too concerned about day-to-day price action. It's kind of just going in circles. Almost 3 years ago, the stock was double what it is. So I think it's just kind of blinded people in a lot of ways, the negativity around this, the fact that the stock ran up so fast
Yeah.
in the short squeeze. And I think really when you saw that all-time high, there were no 4680 cells. There was no FSD released to everybody. We're making serious progress, but the stock has been flat for a few years. It kind of reminds me a lot of Ron Barron's CNBC interview where he said the stock has been flat and now the company's finally getting credit now that everything's come together.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna reach out to you and let's schedule something for the filming of the our interview.
Yeah, we can do it
And
tomorrow.
tomorrow is Friday. Yeah, I think that should work. And I'm kind of debating between whether we should record it and then publish it, or we should do it live. And we can, since we're doing it on StreamYard, we can stream it to X and YouTube live simultaneously. I don't know yet. But I do know one thing, Omar. It's going to be tough questions. Tough questions. So get ready, do your stretches. And, I'm already writing down some questions. You up for it? And this is your chance to get out of it. So you can still get out of it. Not too late.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Okay, good. Neil.
Hey, so one comment on the fitness of Tesla from a stock perspective. If you look at it today, what's the PE? 60? Think about Apple's PE.
We don't really do PEs here. I think PEs are just very short term. And
that's all I'm saying. It's like it's this. What do you think is going to happen the next quarter, right? It's just interesting to me that there's, if you look at Apple's PE at 30 and Tesla's at 60, double the confidence. Tesla's leading here.
Yeah,
from a
sorry.
tech company perspective in the near term.
That's completely wrong. XAI, did you have anything? XAI?
Hey, thank you. Yeah, sorry I haven't been able to participate, but I've been listening in. It's been a great one. Thank you.
Why did you request to speak?
I didn't know you were ending the space.
Okay, so what did you have to say?
I lost my train of thought waiting.
Okay, when people come up to speaker board, they should be ready to talk. Don't come out to hang out. Luce, did you have anything?
Yeah, so I wanted to say that energy production with coal in the plants also basically uses better filters and so on. So probably it reduces CO2 by producing coal with better by producing energy with better technology.
All right. Sierra, are you up for Monday Space Uzi, Omar, for AI amateurs?
For sure.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, great. So this Monday, we're going to do another AI amateur space. We have a lot to talk about. We have Grok 2. We'll have some more information on that, and then other models as well. And I also want to kind of position that space as a crowdsourced effort to use AI more efficiently. So maybe specific examples of how using AI helps you increase your productivity. That would be helpful. Uzi and then James.
Yeah, let's try to get Sierra to break her NDA. No, I'm just kidding. But with
Yeah.
Grok 2, I
Yeah.
just dropped a photo of Tom. So I got you.
Okay. James?
Hey guys, I just wanted to mention I actually have an interview with XAI today. If you guys could wish me luck, but also if anyone has any tips, if they'd worked there before or anything, my DMs are open. It'd be nice to a little nervous, but you know, it'd be really fun to actually be able to work on something useful.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
If you wanna throw any advice to James while he is just on the interview, you want advices to I'm not gonna say it. All right. Omar, any closing thoughts?
Yes, Tesla has just unveiled a new product, the Cybertruck cooler for the frunk. So this is very exciting. I'm going to be picking one up, and it's just the latest innovation from this company.
All right, and that's in the replies. And at the top of our screens is Joa Life's newest product, wireless controllers charging wirelessly. You can use the code TSLA for 5% of your purchases and the link to go directly to that product. Thank you very much, everybody. Tomorrow we'll be back. And then tomorrow night, hopefully Omar and I will record a one-on-one interview or stream it live. We'll see. And then Monday night, we have the AI Amateurs space. Thank you. Enjoy your day and talk to you next time. Take care.